Hello friends, welcome to Environmental Science, Unit 2 Ecosystems. Under Ecosystems, in this video, we are going to see the introduction, types, characteristic features, structure and functions of aquatic ecosystem. What is an aquatic ecosystem? Let us see about the aquatic ecosystem. In aquatic ecosystems, plants and animals live in water. These species are adapted to live in different types of aquatic habitats. Here, the special abiotic features are its physical aspects, such as the quality of water, which includes its clarity, salinity, oxygen content, and rate of flow of water. And the aquatic ecosystems may be classified based on the flow of water. The aquatic ecosystems may be classified as being a stagnant ecosystem and running water ecosystems. Ponds and lakes and tanks are the example for stagnant ecosystem, and the streams and rivers are the example for running water ecosystem. Based on the salinity of water, the aquatic ecosystems are classified further into freshwater, brackish, and marine water ecosystems. Here, the marine ecosystems are highly saline, while the brackish areas have less saline water, such as in the river deltas. Here, the special type of community is called as coral reefs, are very rich in species and are found only in a few shallow tropical seas. Let us see about the pond ecosystem. Here, the pond is the simplest aquatic ecosystem. When a pond begins to fill during the rainy season, its life forms such as the algae and microscopic animals, aquatic insects, snails and worms come out of the floor of the pond where they have remained dormant during the dry season. And gradually, more complex animals such as the crabs, frogs and fish return to the pond from the surrounding area, and the vegetation in the pond water consists of the floating weeds and rooted plants on its periphery. And as the pond fills during the monsoon, a large number of food chains are formed in the pond ecosystem. Here, in the pond ecosystem, the producer algae is eaten by the microscopic animals, which are in turn eaten by the small fish, on which the larger carnivorous fish are depending for their food. And these are in turn eaten by the birds such as the kingfishers, the herons, and the birds of prey. And the aquatic insects, worms, and snails feed on this waste material excreted by the animals and the dead or decaying plant and animal matter. And they act on the detritus, which is broken down into nutrients, which the aquatic plants can absorb, thus completing the nutrient cycle of the pond ecosystem. Here, the temporary ponds begin to dry after the rainy season, and the surrounding grasses and terrestrial plants spread into the moist mud. They come into the they grow into the moist mud of the pond, and animals such as the frogs, snails and worms remain dormant in the mud and waiting for the next monsoon. Now let us see the lake ecosystem. Here a lake ecosystem functions like a giant permanent pond. Here a large amount of its plant material is the algae, and the microscopic animals feed on the algae here, and there are also some fish that are herbivorous and are dependent on the algae and also on aquatic weeds. And the small animals such as the snails, which are used as food by small carnivorous fish, and these in turn are eaten by the larger carnivorous fish. Some specialized fish such as the catfish, which feed on the detritus on the muddy bed of the lake. Here let us see the energy cycle in the lake ecosystem. Energy cycles through the lake ecosystem from the sunlight to the plants. Here, From plants, the energy is transferred to the herbivorous animals and to carnivorous animals. And the animals excrete waste products which settle on the bottom of the egg, and these are broken down by small animals that live in the mud in the floor of the lake. So this acts as the nutrient material that is used by the aquatic plants for their growth. So during this growth process, plants use the carbon from the carbon dioxide for their growth, and they release oxygen. So this released oxygen is then used by the aquatic animals. The next one is the stream and river ecosystem. Here, streams and rivers are flowing water ecosystems in which all the living forms are especially adapted to the different rates of flow or different speed of flow of water. Some plants and animals such as the snails and other burrowing animals can withstand the rapid flow of the hill streams, and other species of plants and animals such as the water beetles and skaters can live only in the slowly moving water, and some species of fish such as the mahseer go upstream from rivers to hill stream for breeding. So they need a crystal clear water to be able to breed. So they lay eggs only in the clear water so that their young ones can grow successfully. As the deforestation occurs by the activity of human in the hills, the water in the streams that was once flowing throughout the year becomes seasonal, and this leads to the flash flood condition, that is a rapid flow of water during the rains, and also a shortage of water once the streams dry up after the monsoon. And the community of flora and fauna of streams and rivers depends on the clarity, flow of water, and oxygen content, and as well as the nature of their beds. And the stream or river can have a sandy, rocky, or muddy bed, and here each type having its own species of plants and animals. Next one is the ocean or marine ecosystems. The Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal constitute the marine ecosystems around the peninsular India. In the coastal area, the sea is shallow, while further away from the coast it is deep. But both these are different type of ecosystems. The producers in this ecosystem vary from the microscopic algae to the larger seaweeds. There are millions of zooplankton and a large variety of invertebrates on which live the fish, turtles, and the marine mammals. Now let us see the coral reefs of ocean ecosystem. The shallow areas near the Kutch and around the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and the Gulf of Mannar are some of the most incredible coral reefs in India. And the coral reefs are the second to the tropical evergreen forest in the richness of species. And fish, crustacea, starfish, jellyfish, and polyps and other thousands of species which deposit their coral to form this incredible world under the shallow sea, and which is known as the coral reefs. Coral reefs are one of the most productive ecosystem with high biodiversity, and the coral reefs are natural protective barriers against the erosion, seashore erosion, and the rise of sea level. And they provide a substrate for mangrove vegetation, and coral reefs provide habitat for a large variety of animals and plants. And here the over-exploitation, overfishing, increased sedimentation of mud, silt, and violent storms, flooding, extreme high and low temperature are the threats to the coral reefs. And next one is the estuaries of ocean ecosystem or the estuarine ecosystem. Here the estuaries are located where the river meets the sea. Estuaries are water bodies where the flow of fresh water from the river mixes with the seawater. Here, the wave action in the estuary is very little or slower, and in India, the major estuaries occur on the east coastal region, and mangroves are the evergreen vegetation or evergreen plants growing in the these estuaries. And the mangroves have adaptation to the anaerobic saline water, where the mud is high in the estuarine ecosystem. And these mangrove plants have breathing roots or the nematophores to overcome the respiration problem in the anaerobic soil conditions. The mangroves are seen in the Sundarbans in West Bengal and Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat and Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Pichavaram in Tamil Nadu. The mangroves provide a breeding ground for fishes, various kinds of fishes, and they reduce the speed of tidal floods and prevents the coastal soil erosion. And they supply woods and firewood, medicinal plants and edible plants to the local people to meet their livelihood. And the commercial fishing, recreation activities, tourism, port activity, shipping, pollution, and other developmental activities are being the threats to the estuarine ecosystem. How are the aquatic ecosystems used? Man uses the aquatic ecosystems for the clean fresh water to drink and for other domestic uses and agriculture. The fishermen use the aquatic ecosystem to earn their livelihood, and people catch fishes and crabs. They also collect edible plants. And the marshes and wetlands are of great economic importance for people who live on their fish, crustacea, reeds, grasses, and other produce available from the aquatic ecosystem. And the intensive fishing by using giant nets and mechanized boats affect the aquatic ecosystem. And agriculture and industry are highly dependent for the large quantity of water requirement, and dams are built across the rivers to store water and to generate electricity. So large dams have thus the serious ill effects on these natural river ecosystems. What are the threats to the aquatic ecosystem? Water pollution occurs from the sewage and poorly managed solid waste in urban areas when it enters into the aquatic ecosystem such as lakes and rivers. And the sewage leads to a process called eutrophication, which destroys the life in the water as the oxygen content is severely reduced, so that fish and crustacea and other organisms cannot breathe and are killed. A foul odor is produced in this condition, and gradually the natural flora and fauna of the aquatic ecosystem is destroyed due to the process called eutrophication. In rural areas, the excessive use of fertilizers washed away by rainwater and mixes in the aquatic ecosystem and then causes an increase in the nutrients, which leads to eutrophication. And the pesticides used in the adjacent fields pollute water and kills its aquatic animals, and the chemical pollution from industry kills a large number of life forms in the adjacent aquatic ecosystems, and the contamination by heavy metals and other toxic chemicals which affects the health of people who live near these areas as they depend on this water for their domestic use. How can the aquatic ecosystems be conserved? For sustainable use of an aquatic ecosystem, water pollution must be prevented, and changing the nature of the aquatic ecosystem from a flowing water ecosystem to a static water ecosystem destroys its biological diversity, and the aquatic ecosystems, especially the wetlands, need protection by including them in the sanctuaries or national parks in the same way in which we protect the natural forests. And these sanctuaries in aquatic ecosystems protect a variety of life forms as well as the rare fish which are now highly in endangered conditions such as the bashir. So far in this video under ecosystems, we have seen the introduction, types, characteristic features, structure and functions of the aquatic ecosystems. Thank you.